Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm Intergot for this special catch-up / continuous running episodes on Sunday, the 11th of February, 2024. And I'm joined, as always, by Swinny.
Well, hello there.
I don't know about you, but I'm almost like getting to a point, because now it's becoming a fortnightly cadence. So I think a total rebrand.
Don't lock yourself in. We already kind of shot ourselves in the foot by calling ourselves a big week in gaming, and they're deciding to stop the weekly shows.
Wait, I was about to do the most Mike thing, which is, it's like Bigwig. I was like, well, it's Fortnite, so it's F now. And then
Big.
I was thinking of other words instead of I. Like, and I'm not going to go down that path even further. But I was like, wow, this is like a Mike joke.
Well, you know how you asked me, you were trying to come up with like on-demand, the P of the on-demand,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll give myself some homework. So the only thing I could think of, and hear me out here, right? Is podcast on demand. Because if you reinterpret pod to not mean be short for podcast and only be an acronym, they can get away with it.
That is like... Wait, can we do it even crazier? Can we do POD doesn't stand for podcast on demand. POD stands for pod on demand.
This is getting a bit...
It's a recursive acronym. I love it.
This is almost like, as crazy as doing a special where you rank all your show episode names, the most self-aggrandizing thing. Next to the Chemco tier list, I don't think we've ever done anything so like for ourselves ever.
But I feel like that's more likely we'll do stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine that someone had never listened to our show before and went, I think that was episode 100, I think.
It was, yeah.
Went and listened, that was their very first episode, and like these dudes are and I'm not denying we aren't, the most just self-centered, ridiculous people spending... I think we spent over an hour ranking all 100 of
It was a long time. It was... and I think I'm more realistic with time than you are. Like, you're like, oh, no, we won't be that long or something like that. And it's like fucking hours and hours and hours. I'm going through to see if we actually clipped just that piece or if it was the whole episode.
No, I think by that point we weren't doing these separate clips. So I don't think doing that as a separate clip would have been... Imagine the view count on that. We rank our first 100 episode names in a tier list.
I'm just trying to see what is it 100? You know what I'm also shocked about? I'm looking at the thumbnail. The thumbnails we used to have so sick, right? And we've got Will Smith smacking Chris Rock as the thumbnail.
Look, Mike, trying to decipher exactly why Mike chose certain things. Like, the amount of times we had to be like, wait, what? And Mike's just like, I thought it'd be funny. It's like, look, I'm sure there's logic to how he came to that point, but a lot of the time it's just like he just found... Like, I think there was one where he just put a fly on someone's face.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought it'd be funny. It's like...
Mike's the best. Yeah, we should also do the obligatory mention that Mike's still alive. He's just busy with some personal stuff, and this is, we're not as... I mean, we're not committed at all. I was going to say we're not as committed. We're not committed at all, but it's fun.
Episode 3 of Mike Watch. Let's see how Mike Watch continues for the future.
We should gamble.
Episode.
Do you reckon you'll be in the next episode or not?
Jesus. Everything is a competition to you. I don't know if Mike will be in that. I hope so. I hope that he has the time and is able to. I know he wants to come back on the show. But it is what it is. Things get in the way sometimes.
They do. And see how not that I don't care, but I'm just looking at the tier list episode. You're bang on the money, dude. It was pretty much an hour, the whole back end of the episode. So to be fair, if you listen to the episode, the first hour is stuff that we cover in gaming, and the whole back end of the episode is just indulgence of the highest order. But we named the tier, the S tier. Well, above the S tier is called Joe Jives. Jojo Iced Tea.
Oh yeah, the
That's
gods,
good.
yeah.
There's, more time passes, you go back and watch some of this stuff. It's so funny just personally. Like I look through it and I'm like, fuck, this is really funny.
I think we managed to get through ranking 100 episode titles in an hour. That's a pretty good rate.
Yeah, I can kind of recall that I was like, I need some speed here. Like, let's just make some decisions and then reorder if we need to. But yeah, Mike's still alive. We are doing it every fortnight by accident. I'm eating like food now. This is how much I've changed.
Just a tip, maybe move away from the mic.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
We'll get some chewing ASMR.
Can you actually hear it?
I could a second ago.
You know what the craziest thing is? I'm eating biltong. So it's like, that is like the chewest shit ever. So it's like the worst thing to eat right at the start of a podcast. But anyway.
For a bit behind the scenes, we were like, oh, when do you want to start? It's like, oh, I'm still finishing lunch. So I had the, I had the courtesy to finish my lunch before I came on here.
No, look, dude, like I was a good boy today. I actually went to the gym and did a workout. So I'm kind of like still catching up on some random stuff that I need to do. So, when we did like that body fitness thing, like pump or something like that. This is like 15 years ago or 18 years ago or something, right? We're freaking old, right? We did it together. You've forgotten it, obviously. And the next day,
I don't remember.
I was like dead. Like I couldn't move. My whole body was stiff and everything. And I called you and I was thinking, this is embarrassing. Like I'm fucking wrecked. Like I got to take, like I can barely get into work. And I called you thinking, oh, this is embarrassing. And then you're like, oh, I can't get out of bed.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you bring this up because without getting into too much detail, I was reminded the other day of when we went on a hiking trip, and we went with two friends that clearly their fitness level was well above ours, and this was a while back, so I was fitter than I am now. And on the, it was the thing, we go camp for the night and then we walk back the next day. And that walk back the next day, they were waiting for us at the parkings, where we're leaving from, like probably for like an hour at least.
More. I think it was an hour and a half.
And we're walking and we're like having to stop every probably 100 meters, and we're like, dude, man, this is so rough. I just can't keep walking. Because we were also like, not only were we carrying some of the camping stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you made the decision to wear steel-capped boots.
Yeah, but no, I think it's, was it that? Like, I definitely got boots, but they weren't really worn in. They weren't worn in from memory.
But the idea of hiking in like steel-toe boots is like, it's almost like Goku when he has to put weights on himself to train.
But I think we both had jeans on. Like, we were we're stupid as hell, right? Like, this is a long time ago, and we were just so dumb. And dude, it's so funny you said that because I started to do a bunch of bushwalking recently. So I've been like bushwalking a lot recently, and I've got a totally like a hiking outfit, basically, proper shoes, all this other kind of stuff. And I was thinking, it's so weird that you said it because I was thinking about when we went there, and I'm like, man, I was such a dumbass back in the day. Like this is like, it was partly because like I just didn't have the money to go and buy dedicated, things for the weekend or something. So I think I wore my work boots probably.
Well, also it was like, friends are like, oh, do you want to go camping? On the weekend? Yeah, okay. Like it wasn't like a really long planned thing. And also it's not something we did very often. So
not at all. And
the idea of having any equipment / clothing especially for hiking is not a thing.
And I think we also kind of thought it was a bit more like, yeah, we'll go hiking, but it's like, I'm sure like an hour or something, go to the campsite, drink, whatever, and then go back. But it was like a hike. Like from memory, it was like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. I
think it was like 16K in total or something like that. Which
there and back? That's not that far. But
no, but it was a lot of, it wasn't like a straight walk. It was like a lot of hills. It was like on a mountainside kind of thing,
Yeah.
So not that long distance wise, but we were bloody.
Oh, we were dead, man. We were like dead. We were like, that was so funny. It's so weird that you said that because I was literally thinking about it the other day. But by the way, you look a bit fresh. You got a bit of a different, look to, for the listeners on the podcast. You trimmed up your facial hair.
While I was shaving my head, it slipped and just goes right off the face. Just
for a split second, I thought you were being real.
Something different, especially while I'm currently on a sabbatical.
That's right,
a Swinny sabbatical.
Swinny sabbatical. You're starting your streaming career on Twitch.
Yeah,
on OnlyFans.
Well, with all the people not being able to stream from Korea anymore, it's like there's a gap in the market.
That's true. That's true.
Just a bit of a change. So see how it goes.
I barely see you without your hat. So do you just like shave your whole head now?
Yeah, not straight to the thing, but like, what is it, number 1 or whatever?
Yeah. You know what? Because I was growing my hair out long, right? And it just got to a point where I'm like, I gotta maintain the hell out of this thing. It's so much work. Shampoos, hair oil. And then I was talking to the girls at work and they're like, oh no, you got to put heat protectant in your hair because you have to blow dry it. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to, I literally, and I was growing it for 9 months or something like that, or maybe even 12 months. And then I just was like, fuck it. And I went to the barber that day and just cut it all, right? Because I'm like, fuck this. But one thing is, and my dad's bald. I've always been like, fuck, I'm going to go bald one day for sure. And then I got so paranoid when I was growing my hair long because I'm like, I can't really tell if it's thinning or not because it's much harder. And I was so paranoid when I got the haircut that I was going to be like, oh shit, I just got to shave this or something. So I was chatting to the barber. It was fine. But then he's like, oh no, what you can do now is tattoo your hair. Have you seen this?
The only thing I know people with alopecia can get eyebrow tattoos. That's the only thing I know about. Bobby Lashley in WWE, he's got his eyebrows tattooed because he has alopecia. So.
Yeah, it's this, what did he call it? Yeah, scalp micropigmentation. So they do this thing where they do all these dots, all the thing, right? And I was thinking to myself, this is nuts. This looks stupid, right? And then the guy was like, oh, I've got it. And I looked at him, I'm like, holy shit, I literally, when someone tells you something, then maybe you kind of you see it a little bit. But I was like, oh man, that looks actually not too bad. So
look, I think there's a lot of good treatments out there, for that kind of stuff. For me, it was I started balding when I was in my early 20s and I'm like, well, that's what I'm done.
Yeah.
It's I probably needed to start stuff when I was 14 years old to get ahead of the curve.
Well, but see, it's always a factor of how much do you actually care about it, right?
Yeah, and I don't care.
It's crazy now. I'm shocked at my cousin who was going bald. He just had a hair transplant. And the thing is, you can't tell. When I see him, I always forget that. And it's only once in a blue moon that I think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, wait, he's got fake hair, but you can't tell. So
the thing for me is more what is the kind of upkeep in that kind of stuff? And that's where how it looks, it might look okay, but it's what do you have to do to actually maintain?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
stuff?
Yeah.
It just seems like a pain in the ass. It's just let it fucking shave my head.
Yeah, I can't even grow my hair out. So I'm the same as you. If it started to go and it was I'm not selling this, you know what I mean? I think you have a period where you can kind of sell it a little bit, but as soon as it goes past that, I'll just go bang, just shave the fucker off, own it. So anyway, this is big haircuts in gaming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what exists? Video games exist.
Video games. So let's talk about what we've been playing. And for me, it's mostly handheld stuff. So I'll try to see without breaking any of these handhelds. I'll talk about this one in a second.
Jeez, we've got to the point where handhelds are no longer handhelds. They're
they're ginormous.
Look how big all three of those are compared to a Game Boy Advance or something,
Strangely, I haven't been playing the Pocket, even though there's a whole bunch of upgrades. But yeah, so I'll chat about the PS Portal in a second. But Switch, I have my little prop. I actually haven't. This is probably the least I've played my Switch in 7-ish years, right? And it kind of just goes to play into what we spoke about last time. There's going to be a new handheld. There has to be, because I'm a pretty, like, you know how it is. Like, I pretty much just get everything first party. I get a bunch of Switch games all the time. And I look at the lineup, you know, I've played most of the recent games. And I'm like, there's nothing really like super appealing that's coming out. Like Mario versus Donkey Kong, I played that even pretty recently on the Analog Pocket. So I don't really feel like coughing up for a remake on that. And yeah, I just don't play it as much. I have played, you know, the one thing I do play is Picross, but I did get into the new hotness around Picross tents and trees. So it's a bit of a
Tents and trees.
Tents and trees, dude. This game is sick. Like if you like Picross,
well, you don't have to ask me that.
yeah, it's like there's an online, like you can actually just play it. It's like puzzle-tents.com. It's like a free game, but it's come out on consoles. It's freaking sick, man. It's got crazy good reviews, which I think is like really fair for it.
I'll check it out.
And like it's pretty cheap on the Switch. You can get a demo of it as well, but it's a slight like variation on Picross, and I actually really like it because the problem that I have with Picross now is like problem and benefit is that I just fully understand Picross. You know what I mean? It's almost mechanical.
Yeah, it's almost I'm the same where I never come across a Picross puzzle that is like I can't solve, right? And at this point it's more just like it's like the brain training stuff where it's like, okay, I know this, but it's like how it's almost like gotten meta, like how do I solve this in a different way now, you know? And that's why I'm playing that bloody Hatsune Miku Picross game on Xbox. And the fact that that doesn't allow you to do errors is the kind of thing where it's like annoys me for that reason, because it's like I like doing different stuff. But this Tents and Trees game, this looks really cool.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's on a few different platforms, but I mean, it's really at home at Switch. And to be honest, like, you know, the good and bad thing of Picross, like the official Jupiter releases, there's like nothing to go back to. Like I've beaten so many of them, and you kind of like, you beat it and then I just delete it because it's like, there's nothing to go back to. But with this Tents and Trees, it actually has daily challenges where it seems to be automatically generated or something like that. So it's honestly like such good value. Like you can just get it and it's like, okay, I'll just like lock that in. So
have you tried the mobile version?
Because I'm just not a mobile gamer, so no, I haven't. Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because that's always the problem with the mobile versions of Picross is the actual control interface. It's like for a puzzle game, Picross is one of the ones that is most like suited to an actual like D-pad cursor kind of control. Yeah. And or a stylus, but I mean, I'm not going to carry a stylus around for a bloody mobile game, you know, so.
I'm actually just like looking at the Steam listing. I'm actually shocked at what they wrote in the first sentence, which is true, but they're not, I don't think they legally can describe it like this. Tents and Trees offers a chill experience subtly touched by the spirit of Picross, but they don't actually like call out the trademark or I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, so many games are like from the creators of blah, blah, blah. True. And it's not that past game. Like Outer Worlds at the time was from the creators of Fallout, you know, and Obsidian weren't part of that, you know, Fallout kind of thing. Now they are, but you know what I mean? It's like, I think there's probably leniency on that kind of stuff.
Oh, so what I didn't know is that Picross isn't a registered trademark.
Well,
that's a bit go. Yeah, so they must be defending it in terms of their usage of it, but they don't have the trademark for it. There you go. So yeah, look, like highly recommend that game, but that's the only thing I'm kind of playing from time to time on the Steam Deck. Celeste 64. So weirdly enough, so yeah, I don't think we spoke about it last time because it wasn't out, but the devs behind Celeste, to celebrate the 6th anniversary of Celeste, said, oh, why don't we spend a week and a bit and release a brand new game? And that's literally what they did. And it's insane that like I almost like fell off the chair when it's like, this is a week and a half work to create a variation of like the first part of Celeste in 3D, super inspired by Mario 64. So 3D platformer, 30 barrels.
With some sunshine kind of touches as well.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of nods to lots of different things in it. But, you know, like it's at its core, it's almost like, I would say, almost like a PS1 more kind of low poly, Mario 64 experience. And I love it. And it's weird, man. It's the first real experience I've had with Celeste. Like, I have booted into Celeste, but it was a bit like, oh, I'm going to get hooked in this game, park it, and I'll do it later. And in the 6 years, I've never done, I've never played it. And I got all 30 berries. It's not like insanely hard. And like, it was insanely hard when I thought you couldn't grab onto the walls. So everything I was doing was not grabbing onto any wall.
I'm going to also admit that I didn't know you could grab walls, and I spent ages playing that game, getting stuff, just trying to
like Celeste.
Doing the same, yeah.
That's
Where
so
it's
funny.
it's like something about this feels janky, but this must be the way because I don't know how else I can get up here. So that makes a lot of sense. I didn't play like I probably maybe got like 8 or 9, but I did plan on going back to it. Really awesome. Like when I saw it,
good.
when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is a cool fan project. And then I read it's like from Maddie Makes Games, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet. So yeah.
It's like, it was hard, not hard for me, but it was just like, I was shit at it. I was like playing it. I'm like, man, I'm shit at games, or some games. I'm like, man, this is like embarrassing how many times I'm dying. When I finished the game, it said how many deaths to get 30 berries. It was crazy. I was like, this is way more than everyone else. But I really enjoyed it, dude. I was like, partly I was like, fuck, this took a week and a half. Spend another month, polish it up, and sell it for $5. Like, what are they? I'm a capitalist, right? But I'm just like, really? Like, what are they doing? It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got that other game in the works. What is it?
Earth something?
Something Swords, Earthblade or something?
Earthblade? Earth Sword?
Is it Earthblade? Yeah, Earthblade.
Yeah, nice pull.
Which I mean, always looked cool. So I think it's just something for a bit of keep the fires, creative juices flowing.
No, fair enough. But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. You can get it on itch.io. It's a muck around to get working on Steam Deck. It's the best and worst thing about the Steam Deck. Like, it's a sick device, but man, it's such a muck around, like, to get certain things working on it. But when it does, it's like, this is sick. It's working. It's really, really cool. But it's a muck around sometimes. The other thing I'll say about the Steam Deck quickly is, with the Switch, standby power, so you just, put it in standby, it's like a miracle thing in Switch, where you put it on standby and it's just like, it will turn on and it's 100% battery, like a week later, 2 weeks later, 5 weeks later, right? Steam Deck, you put it into sleep mode, like suspend, and it's like an old DS or like 3DS where it drains like 10% battery per day. So sometimes I'll put it on like suspend, pick it up a couple of days later, I'm like, fuck, I've only got half the battery left. Man, that shits me. Like, I hope with the next Steam Deck iteration, like the OLED's the same, but I hope the next one they figure out how to do that, like on the Steam Deck as well. But what I actually have been playing a lot of is PlayStation and the PlayStation Portal. This is when you know that you actually have excess money. It's like, dude, in the context of having this, where I will legitimately say this through Chiaki or whatever it's fucking called, stupid name. There's a third-party app you can install on this. Runs remote play better than the PlayStation Portal. Legit, it runs it better. So it's truly like a ridiculous device to buy. But I play more PlayStation, man.
So what you're saying, the PlayStation Portal is the that's what determines the 3% or whatever it is, the upper class, the elite of the world.
The 1%.
The 1%.
Yeah.
Whoever owns the PlayStation Portal, then you can tell where they are in life.
I will say this, that I had a like Big W gift card thing. So it was kind of like I didn't put money in my pocket, but then I could have used that on Woolworths, and then it would have been like, yeah, so it's not really an excuse, but it made it a bit easier. And then I was just kind of going, you know what? I know I'm going to get this eventually. I'm going to be weak at some point and get it. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll get it day one. I am not a fan of the DualSense controller. My hands have kind of gotten used to it. Like, I've literally built like I've got small hands. But I find it too big and too clunky the way that DualSense is. I think like the Xbox controller is probably the best controller out there, but I find that this version of it, that it's wider, and also like it's crazy. And I had this confirmed because I was like thinking it feels a bit better to me. The sticks are actually slightly smaller, so some features of it are a little tiny bit smaller, and it's kind of like perfect for me actually.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that because I'm the same with the DualSense, and I was just going to say, does it kind of alleviate some of that strain that I know you've talked about in the past?
It does. Like it's kind of wild. Like I never get tired using the PS Portal, but I definitely like the DualSense. Like I've said, I've built up the hand strength of it, like which is ridiculous. So you have to go, oh, I've got to, figure out how to build up the hand strength. But
do you remember the original Nintendo DS? It was like you had to almost train your hands to not get tired to hold that thing because you were often holding it in the left and using the stylus in the right.
yeah,
And man, that took ages to kind of get used to using it. Even the Switch, I found that for a while that I had to kind of get used to like the weight distribution and how I hold it, especially if you're like lying in bed versus like sitting up on a train.
I use the what do they call it? The Hori Split Pad Pro. When I didn't have that, it was always slightly uncomfortable with the Joy-Cons. Like they're too. I'm like a fucking Goldilocks of gamings. Like Joy-Cons are too small, DualSense too big. Like to be honest, the Xbox, like I said, it's the best controller on the market. It's like there's features I don't like rechargeability and shit like that. Fucking pisses me off that it's like many versions that you need battery. It's like, geez, come on. But yeah, so just on the PlayStation Portal, it's like very light as well. It's way jankier than it should be still. Like I like it because it's all integrated and it works fairly well, but it still doesn't work well enough. And I've got like the perfect setup for it. I've got hardwired PlayStation 5. I switched everything so it's only, Wi-Fi 6 and 5 gigahertz, like everything I've done to make it work as efficiently as possible. And it's still like, it's a little bit like weird the way the stuttering works in it. And I read a whole bunch of stuff online about it. And it's actually, this is getting a bit Digital Foundry, but the screen refresh of the actual Portal screen is not perfectly synced to what the PlayStation is. So you get like basically almost like micro stutter all the time. That is kind of hard to perceive, but I noticed it straight away when I was looking at it, partly because I've been playing on the Steam Deck, which doesn't have that problem. So it's like, it's so weird to say this. Like you buy this thing, it's $330 Australian, and it's a worse experience than the Steam Deck. But the overall experience, because it's like a DualSense and I don't know why, but I don't like playing something. It's like Xbox labeled buttons layout. And it's like, press triangle and I'm pressing Y. I'm like, I don't know why, dude, but that just fucking bothers me irrationally, like bothers me so much. But yeah, like overall, it's such a fucking niche device. Like it's like the last device I would almost recommend to anyone.
Now, there is some out of home functionality in it, correct?
I haven't tried that yet, but I will.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
I will try it. But I wouldn't yeah, it's like you got to be pretty desperate to do that, I think.
I'm just curious to just know, is it actually functional in that capacity in any way? Without, like, I haven't had any experience with PS Remote Play or anything like that.
So I've set up PS Remote Play like as efficiently as possible, and then I play. I'm okay at Rocket League, right? Like diamond level, so it's not that great, but not that shit either. And like I played to test it out. I played it on the Portal, which I know it's almost like the worst game to play, that or a fighting game. And like I think I got like MVP in a match. So it's like you notice it. It's definitely not as like twitchy as like, if I'm playing, and I have optimal condition. It's like I'll either play on my PC. It's like I don't even know what it is, 200 or 180 hertz refresh and everything. And then even on my PlayStation 5 with the TV that I have, it's like 120 refresh rate, right? So it's absolutely optimal on that. And I'm like, yeah, I can definitely tell the difference. It's not as like quite as tight, but it's not throwing my gameplay off. And I was like just quickly to touch on some of the games I'm playing on the PlayStation. I've really gotten into Ollie World. Like I was kind of like burned through it.
Back in.
Well, I never really stopped, but like I got through the main campaign so quickly. And then very much like I have in the past, these are almost like the anti-Mike games that I love to play, right? It's like doing the same thing over and over again, like playing, Marvel versus Capcom with the kids. It's like just the same game over and over again. But I love that. Ollie Ollie World. Yeah, go
Have
on.
you thought about? I was gonna say, have you thought about playing the first game?
Not really, because it's actually I did look at it, so yes. Yeah, so I meant to answer your question, yes. But what I realize is it's more technical than I would like. Ollie Ollie World to me strikes a really good balance. And I do understand why it hasn't hit with people, because you do have to learn like how to do stuff. Like I look at when I first started playing it to now, where I'm like spinning, grabbing, like combos, ollieing, manuals, just like I'll be just pulling together like a combo through the entire stage. So it's like there is a skill ceiling to it that you just need to keep pushing. And I think that's the thing. I love those kind of games where it's like, I beat the whole game and then it's like, oh, these challenges. Okay, I'll go back and do all those challenges. And they're hard, right? Because you can see it even from the percentages. And then I'm like, oh, and then there's another challenge on top of that. I'm like, holy shit. So I do like that stuff where it's like trying to get better at a skill and just, and competition. I love competition. I'm like, fuck, these people could do this. I can do this. So I don't think I'll fully let that go. Started playing Rocket League a lot again. Like that's just such a chill game for me. It's like play a few games, maybe like they have a tournament feature for a while, but I never really got into it. But that's pretty fun to play. I got to be honest, I just can't deal with like the team chat. So I've just made a decision. It's completely off. Like I don't see anything, right? And what
is it? I'm trying to like. It's been a long time since I've played Rocket League, and I remember it's almost like Dark Souls style in the sense that like the community comes up with their own way to communicate, but like via those predetermined chats.
Yeah,
and I remember like what a goal or whatever when someone misses.
Yeah, I know. It's like, so
like
passive aggressive.
Like
yeah,
it is so kind of, but. Some of it makes you laugh, but if it kind of gets to you, then yeah, I think turning it off is a good idea.
I think like what is
Oh, what a save! What a save is the one when someone scores. What a save!
I was gonna say Spielberg, Shakespeare. To know was it to thyself be true. I think that's how it goes. But I'm hypercritical of myself. I'm a perfectionist. I am always like, shit, I could do this better, and it's good and bad. It's like I'll always try to improve things. I'll never give up on improving. But I don't need extra people to go, that was fucking shit, bro. Like, what are you doing, right? Like, I'm already beating myself up. So I didn't realize I'd turned it all off. I thought, but if I was in a party, then I could still receive messages. So I was playing this tournament with some guy, and then it kind of partied this up, which I didn't know. And I was playing, and then I got to like this thing and I fucking just whiffed the whole goal, right? And I was just like, oh my God, that was so dumb. And then like I kind of exited the game or whatever. And then the guy just wrote, bruh. And that was enough to trigger me, bro. I was like, I'll take the fucking game off. Fuck this game.
So it wasn't even a pre-canned one. It was him literally typing bruh.
He was on Steam, obviously, because he was typing, but yeah, he just goes, bruh. Just that was it, bruh. And then disconnects from the party. And I was like, oh, I was shattered, bro. I was shattered. But like that's the thing, I get too wound up. Like I'm hyper competitive and I just can't like it's also, I think it's a bit different if people are in a team and they're like, hey, you need to work on this. It's like, okay, cool. But in online gaming, and I gotta be real, man, online gaming communities are some of the like biggest dickheads going around. And they're just like incels. And I don't know, there's just something about it where it's like they're not reasonable. Like the thing is, we're all at the same skill level. This is how the thing works, but people are like, oh, I'm better than you. It's like, no, it's like, we're literally in the same level, you idiot. So like that kind of stuff, it just like where people have no self-awareness, it just drives me like crazy. So anyway, yeah, playing Rocket League. I tried Foam Stars.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
So I don't think the game's going to last. I think the game's going to die pretty quick, to be honest.
Well, it's also Square Enix, and they don't have a track record of that kind of stuff.
And it's like, do I think that's fair? Maybe not. Okay, I'm a big Splatoon fan, but just like if people are listening to this randomly, so I love Splatoon. Played Splatoon 1, so I went back to play Splatoon 1, played that a bunch. played, hundreds of hours of Splatoon 2, hundreds of hours of Splatoon 3. Love the Splatoon series. Will always be like a day one player. I literally have it in my diary when then the side order DLC comes out for Splatoon 3. So anyway, it is such a fucking direct rip of Splatoon. It's insane how, like, and I've said to you that Splatoon's such a unique category in the shooter genre, like the way it works. But a couple of things really quickly. I think the way they've done it is almost like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Splatoon, it's a really interesting thing where you're, like, depending on what game mode, but like you're inking the map, but the ink is what you need to recharge your ink. So the more you dominate a map, you can then refill and, put pressure and sort of like dominate parts of the area. But in Foam Stars, you can refill anywhere. It's got no relation with that, right? And it's also like a major difference. You got to like foam people up and then like basically slide into them to kill them, which also kind of like really changes the dynamic. So I played one game, looks amazing, right? The sound's pretty cool. The design's like pretty good. It's a bit like, to me, lifeless. Like there's I don't know, something like a bit too formulaic or something.
It's also very tough to like take inspiration from something like Splatoon, but also be like, well, we can't copy the art style.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like the art style's nothing like Splatoon, but Splatoon's art style is like 10 out of 10. It's freaking amazing, right? And it's not like I was shit at the game. I played the game. It was against real people. I thought they were bots for a second, but I'm like, no, these are real people. And like I smashed it. I had like 13-to-1 kill death ratio or something like that. It was crazy, right? And I was just like, like, honestly, it was like the classic Seinfeld thing of like, we've already got a George. I was like, I already got Splatoon and Splatoon's better. I'm like, it legit is just better. Splatoon's better. But, and I'm like, why am I going to play this? Like,
but for, let's say, people that primarily play on PlayStation, they don't have a George. They don't have a Splatoon. Do you reckon it's worth them trying? This is it's a PS Plus game, but I know it's obviously not a free-to-play. So I guess the idea is like it's good to try if you got PS Plus, but maybe let's say if it wasn't a PS Plus game, would you recommend people to buy it? Like, would it actually be a recommended game?
I don't think so, because I think the problem is that to me, it's not going to last. So I just honestly, I think that it's going to be a situation where, if you go buy it, you're going to just like, it's, this is not going to be online in like a year's time. So it's sort of like, I don't know. I'd say Splatoon's like a 9 out of 10 kind of series for me. There's still stuff they should do to make it better. I haven't played it enough, but it feels more like a 7 out of 10. And there's so many games like this.
What I'd be interested to know, and obviously every game's different, but with these multiplayer / live service games, we know a lot of them will just like die straight away, but then the odd one will like take off massively, right? I wonder if this game launching in PS Plus, at what point does it actually become successful enough, even if they shut it down? The Square basically said, well, we got our money's worth out of it. I don't have no idea what the budget was that went into this game, but even if they shut the game down in a year, because they've got and apparently one of the big criticisms I've read of the game, and I haven't played it, is that it is obscenely monetized, from what people have said online. But I wonder at what point does the fact that, do they get their money's worth out of it being on PS Plus, and they're like, okay, well that was enough of a success.
I'm sure that's a big reason, because I think if this launched, you could only buy it, and that was the only way you could get in, you'd be screwed. And I do think if you do live service games, you have to have cross-platform. Like, I don't, like maybe not Switch, but you just need that audience, like to try to, establish and create a core audience. And the fact that it's only on PlayStation 5, I believe, I don't even think it's on PlayStation 4. I better check that actually. It's just bizarre to me. Look, the other thing is, what was that dodgeball type game that something arena, was it? Or
No, so it wasn't Rocket Arena, but the one you're talking about, I know the one you're talking about, and that actually was fairly successful. But then they ended up shutting down.
Knockout
So
City.
Knockout City,
Knockout
yeah.
City was a great game. Like, I played that a bit and I'm like, this is a really, really good game. But I've already got Rocket League and a bunch of stuff like, in this space. And I'm like, nah, Knockout City is way better than Foam Stars. Like, if Knockout City came out way earlier, like, I definitely could have played that game heaps because that was a really good game. And that, yeah, ran for 2 years and then they shut it down. Foam Stars, like, I don't want to be like negative. It's on PS4 and PS5. I just can't see it lasting like more than a year, honestly, with Square Enix as well. But the one that I do want to talk about is, and a bit of history here. This is a beloved franchise.
I should get ready for the to absorb the vent.
It's not too crazy of an event, but
okay.
So
Okay.
I was a massive, massive fan of this game series, but the one entry in Xbox 360 I played like crazy. But there was a sale, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll finally try Trials Fusion. So I played the hell out of Trials HD on the 360, but I was always hesitant to play any of the other follow-up games because I always heard people say about the monetization was annoying, all this other kind of features around it, but the core game was good. And I'm like, I just love the Trials HD experience so much. So I picked up Trials Fusion, and fuck me, Ubisoft just did my baby dirty, like so bad. Like, I have so many issues with this game, and I actually fucking reached out to Ubisoft support to ask them, like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I think the thing is, and I'm a capitalist, right? So if you say,
sorry, can I just ask, is this on Steam Deck?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
definitely not. Definitely not on Steam Deck. So it's on PlayStation.
PlayStation, okay.
So I didn't want to get it on Steam and Steam Deck because I know that it's a bit dodgy because of Ubisoft Connect and everything like that. So I'm like, I'm not even going to bother with that. But at least with PlayStation, it's like they generally don't have like broken games on PlayStation. Not saying this is totally broken, but the thing is, Ubisoft have not made an announcement to say that Trials Fusion is shut down, like the servers. They have said that Trials Evolution is shut down. So if you buy Trials Evolution now, actually it was just the other month. So it was Australia Day, 26th of Jan. The servers are shut down for Trials Evolution. I think that's fine. I think if you buy a game and they say the servers are shutting down, that's part of life, like whatever, right? Now, I bought this game and like the servers are meant to be up, right? Then I'm like doing all this crazy Googling. I'm like, why the fuck, like, can I not connect? And I thought I had some Ubisoft login issue. So I literally linked my PlayStation account to Ubisoft, my Ubisoft account. Because then it sort of like does it in the back end and it's more, it just works better. No, you know what it is? It's like their fucking server is like malfunctioning. And then it's like, this is how insane it is that people are getting messages from one of the devs in the Discord for Ubisoft and going, oh yeah, I'm just trying to work on this code, but it's like really old and I think it's working. And like, it's like a fucking school project. Like, shut the fucking servers down or like not. Like, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. And the thing that actually shits me with the whole thing is two things. There's like a track editing mode where there's like 500,000 or 250,000 tracks. I can see there's 250,000 tracks, but none of them load. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not like that crazy on that stuff. But the thing that fucking shits me so much is every single time I play the game, it's like connect to Ubisoft. And it can't. It's not me. It can't. So I have to cancel. Every single time I beat a level or do anything, it's like, can't connect to Ubisoft. And I'm like, and there's no fucking setting or anything. There's no offline mode. There's nothing in the fucking game. So it's like it's like muscle memory to quit out of that dialogue box now.
Funny, I just looked up Trials Fusion on True Achievements because often they'll have notes about the status of the game, whether or not it's issues, server issues, or in this case, I noticed that the 360 version of Trials Fusion, because they also have an Xbox One version, has a discontinued achievement which is related to posting a time on another player's created track. So you
Ah.
can't even unlock that achievement anymore, apparently because of the server issues. So it's being marked as discontinued. So
And it's just so bizarre because some people are like, oh, it's working again. And then like later, like, so in November last year, people are like, it's not working. Then 3 weeks later, it's working. And then there's some dev from literally Ubisoft is like, oh yeah, I've fixed it. And now it's not working. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And like, I don't know. It's like, it is pretty unrealistic to go a game that came out like 10 years ago that the thing that pisses me off more is just like they build these games and they don't have any consideration of the future of like when everything's off, what does that mean? And I feel like that's just bullshit because you really make it. It's like we don't have movies where it's like, oh, this reference will work or this thing will work. And then if you try to watch Pulp Fiction now, you can't watch half the film. You know what I mean? It's like, it shits me in that way. It's almost like it's like, I don't understand how the devs don't push back to a degree where it's like, this is like embarrassing. Like it kind of ruins their art, you know?
I think that some of it is, and this is not making excuses at all, is just, you know how the priorities work in business.
Oh,
Sometimes,
massively.
is that you've probably got the people on the lowest end of the hierarchy being like, we need to update this so it doesn't continue to keep trying to connect, but then they're just constantly shut down. Like, no, we don't. You know, your priority is on this other thing. That when it comes to Ubisoft, we know that what the other thing's going to be. You know,
Yeah.
it's not fixing Trials Fusion server connecting issues and stuff. It's such a shame because, like, as you said, when they make these games, and maybe it's better these days, and because that was still quite early on
Yeah.
in the like, hey, games that are constantly connecting to servers, all
Almost
the
like
time,
live service, right?
yeah, that aren't primarily multiplayer games. So hopefully they're better these days. But the idea is, well, if the servers go offline, sure, you're going to lose access to some features like created content and things like that. But the game shouldn't constantly assume that it needs to connect to something. You know, it needs to be able to just go, okay, it's offline. You know, and the options in the menu grayed out, and you just play the offline single play content. So
but
it sucks, man.
I don't think it is even better because there's so many examples recently of games launching and they've had server issues and you just can't even play the game because of the server issues. So it's kind of almost implying that it's like, what is this game going to be in the future? So I don't know.
That's going back to what, like, the big thing with SimCity, you know, that was the whole thing. It's like, why the hell can't I play this game that is a single player game? You know, it was so ridiculous. And Diablo 3 was the same. And
so like, I don't know how I really feel about it because it's like, I love Trials HD, like love that game so much. And it just shows me how torn I am that it took me like 10 years to play another game in that series, given I know what Ubisoft has done to the series. And I can see how the community is so conflicted about it. Now, like venting a little bit, like the actual game, number one, the amount of muscle memory I have for Trials is like outrageous. Like I got through 80% of the game and I'd barely even had one fault. It was crazy. I was like getting gold medal, like it was insane, right? It's starting to like ramp up now, which is good. But I was just like, it's so weird how it's like in my brain, like the movement of the bike and the rider and just what exactly to do. So in that way, it's really cool. I got the DLC version, so it's got all the DLC tracks as well. So I mean, like taking away the annoyance around the servers and how they've set it all up, and they're just the gross monetization. Like, like what are you doing, right? It's just embarrassing, that shit, right? Taking all that shit away, it's freaking awesome. Again, it's just such a shame, and I don't get it. And I kind of understand why Ubisoft's in such a troubled situation. It's like, just let me fucking play your games where I want to play them. I probably would have got it on the Steam Deck, but I know that it has problems on the Steam Deck, so I avoid it. It's like, what are you thinking as a company, right? It's like, shouldn't you be gearing it, especially if you're like a publisher, you're not a platform holder. Why would you gear it so it's only going to work well on one thing and then have so many issues somewhere else? It's so illogical and stupid to me, but look, I am loving it. Like I'm like in that trials mode of just going, oh, I got to get this, I got to get this. But again, it's like annoying because none of my times really save properly because I can't connect to the leaderboards and it doesn't save locally. So I can't even like save my own times locally and play against my own ghost and stuff like that. It's like, You don't need a server for that. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But, you know, like, the game is good. I feel bad for the devs.
Did you ever end up checking out, was it Leica? I probably didn't tell you the name of it, but
No, I don't know.
Leica Aged Through Blood. So that's the trial-style Metroidvania that has had a lot of buzz. I think it came out last year. But a lot of people, like, apparently it's hard as nails, but Leica as in Laika.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that had a lot of people talking about it, and it looks really cool. Like, it's got the whole trial style physics on a motorbike, but then combined with like action gameplay, Metroidvania, and stuff like that. So really, really like bold thing to try, you know. So
I love can I just say the tagline?
Hmm.
Because how do you say it? Leica?
I don't know. I've never heard it said.
Leica Aged Through Blood is a Western-inspired motorvania set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. I like it. I'm like, do you know what I'm doing right now? I'm like getting the demo on Steam to try it out. This is a good thing about the Steam Deck. I love it. Yeah, no, like, you know, I've been banging on about it for like 10 years. I'm like, can someone just like replace the Trials series with like pretty much the same thing, but just like not the Ubisoft bullshit?
There must be someone out there that's tried that maybe just didn't get breakthrough. There must be someone who's tried, because it's something. It's not like you can't patent that kind of gameplay. No, because like that gameplay goes back to whatever, I forget the name of it, but that like the Game Boy had like a game like that was like we motocross something, Maniacs or something, I think it was. Yeah, where basically, you know, it's like the whole thing of a 2D plane. Yeah, Motocross Maniacs was kind of the thing that Trials always reminded me of, just much better. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, wait, Trials is better or Motocross Maniacs?
No, Trials is better than Motocross Maniacs.
To be honest, like, Ollie Ollie World is like the closest thing that I've played that's similar to Trials, like in this precision and like it's just really tuned in. I will try this. I just wish I had a better name. Leica Aged Through Blood. It does look pretty good actually, and yeah, I'm gonna get the demo. I won't get it now because it will crash our recording. But Mad Max, but with racism towards birds. That's one of the reviews on Steam.
Racism towards birds.
Yeah, no, I'm actually keen to try this now. So I don't know. It's kind of funny. I've just gone through this really crazy phase of like playing anti-mic games, and I'm like, I just love these kind of arcade style games. Like they're so cool.
You say anti-mic games, yet he played Trials, you know.
Yeah,
like...
but dude, come on. These are the exact games that he goes crazy about. No, I'm saying it obviously as a joke that like Mike is so nuts about this stuff, you know.
If you were going to be playing anti-mic games, you'd be playing Diablo 4.
No, sure.
Or Overwatch or something.
I've got to actually enjoy the game though. And then other than that, I know I've taken up like an hour, but you know, it's so funny. My kids are playing so many more games now, and my eldest is like going insane about playing Tekken 8. Like,
didn't I say last week?
Yeah, I took your advice. I took your advice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So being a frugal dad, what I've decided to do is because he was playing the Tekken 8 demo.
Oh, wait. Can I take a guess at what you're gonna say?
Go on.
That you got Tekken 7 and like said it's like Tekken 8, like put like an 8 over the screen.
Just hack my screen so that whenever it has a 7 coming through, I can.
Or you printed out an 8 and put it on the box because you got the physical version.
No. So it's very close, very close. So I have, I'm monitoring the price of Tekken 7, the definitive edition, which has all the characters and everything like that. Look, with Smash Brothers Ultimate, I'm a sucker. I got Smash Brothers Ultimate. I bought that full price. I got to sell my copy. I bought the physical edition. I bought it digitally, and then I bought all the fighter pass. So I've spent like $250 on Smash Brothers, but I love it. But I don't know, dude. Like I haven't gotten into Street Fighter 6 because I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be so many character passes. And same as Tekken 8. It's like 120 Australian dollars. And then they're going to be character passes post that. It's like, ooh.
You should try to find a way to play the Wii U version of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 because it's got all the Nintendo stuff in it.
Oh yeah, that would be
So
cool.
you
Actually,
you dress up
like
all the characters like Toad,
like the outfit.
Mario.
I do recall that. So
Yeah.
it seems to go on sale quite a lot. So I'll get Tekken 7 Definitive Edition and then try it out with him. And the thing is, I don't know Tekken, so like it's pretty competitive actually. So yeah, I mean, it's been fun playing with them. So that was me. I've actually been playing a lot of games, like been like working my butt off at work, but outside of that, yeah, I've just been like kind of chilling, getting through some big games.
So I chose the wrong
Yeah,
time.
I know. I've been talking for like 40 minutes, and then
and I'm like, you're about to hand over, and I like mute cough. Pure podcast professionality there. So I've been playing a bunch of stuff, but probably not as varied a list as I may normally, just because I've been playing a lot of the same stuff. But before talking about what I have played, I just want to mention a game that is so onto the radar at the moment that even as a fan of the dev's previous game, I didn't even know was coming out like next week, which is Banish's Ghost of New Eden, which is the follow-up to Vampire from Don't Nod. And I love Vampire. And I knew that game was on the horizon, but you barely hear about it. Clearly doesn't have a big marketing budget because it's not everywhere, and it's this day and age, unfortunately, it needs to be everywhere for people to know about it, or it needs to be Pal World or something like that. But yeah, I'm super excited. We mentioned offline before the show started, we're talking about the fact that we're not really buying games on release much anymore. And that is a game that I'm happy to buy on a release because while Don't Nod is they've been around for quite a while, this game isn't being published by, I think it's being published by Focus, but that's not like a huge, like massive AAA publisher or anything like that. And I really want to support these kind of games, especially, Vampire was very overlooked. And kind of, if they're making, the devs themselves said this is basically their successor to Vampire. That I'm like, well, I'm gonna fucking support that. The game looks fun. It's interesting. Apparently, I don't know if you remember a while back on the show, I talked about a game called Haven, which was like a turn-based sci-fi RPG, but it featured a couple that were a couple from the beginning of the game. And apparently, this game also features a couple, and it's just something you don't see much in video games. Like, it's always a love story where a couple gets together, but no, to actually have a story built around a pre-established couple is actually really, really cool. So I'm super excited to try it. Hopefully it doesn't suck. Hopefully it is like Vampire and it's a really solid action RPG with some cool stories. So just wanted to kind of call that out there because no one's talking about it, man.
It's funny because like when you actually think through some of the big like couples games or like featuring a couple, it's always like fucked up. Like It Takes Two or like what was that game called? 12 Minutes, I think it was called 12 Minutes.
Oh yeah.
Like that was like they're all like messed up, right? So yeah, you're right. I still think there's like, that, and then I've said it last time on the show, but like having good asymmetric skill level games, like they just don't exist. I do wonder if like someone's going to do it because there's so many like dad developers now. You know what I mean?
Dad and child games.
Yeah, no, seriously. I think like you even see that with like, God of War, the refresh is basically all inspired by Corey Barlog's like own troubles about being a dad and everything like that. So it's like starting to weed into the media. So I'm guessing something like that will happen.
So he also had a kid that like yelled out the obvious things at every turn, like solutions to puzzles and things like that.
That's why my kid doesn't always bash him. They're like, shut up, I'm trying to solve this shit, Atreus.
In terms of stuff I did play, so I just wanted to quickly talk about the fact that this week they put out the open beta / demo. Like the term open beta for a game has been in development for like 10 years. Has had so many closed betas, but Skull and Bones, they finally put out the demo. I'm sorry, it's a bloody demo.
Oh, sorry. I was actually sorry because I was like about to fall off my chair. I'm like, what do you mean beta? I was thinking of the Rare game.
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves. I thought I read this as Sea of Thieves open beta. I'm like, what? Like, sorry, yeah, Skull and Bones, yeah.
So Skull and Bones. So they put it out, put out the demo because it comes out in like this month or something. And I was always really on the fence of that game because the premise had potential. You know, like Ubisoft can put some good stuff out. It can put out a lot of junk, but we know the troubles of this game, how long many times it's been delayed. It's like ridiculous. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something to this game. There's got to be something. And
can I just like quickly interject that by the time people are listening to this, the open beta is closed, like that time period.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it closed that quickly.
I'm just like looking at it. It's live right now as we speak, but Australian time, it's closing tomorrow at 10 a.m.
So Skull and Bones, I finally got to try it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that game.
Oh no, go on. I love this.
If I didn't know anything about that game, I would have been convinced it's a parody. Like it is a parody of it is. I was coming to that game like with high hopes that it had something that would appeal to me. There's a lot of stuff that's competent about it, and look, this is in their words, open beta, so there's stuff they could obviously improve. But this game's been developed for so long. This is what the game's going to be, right? Yeah. I'm sorry, this is what the game's going to be, and I just was perplexed at this game, just being like, look, game development is fucking hard, especially big projects, right? But when they had the opening thing and they showed Ubisoft like Singapore and they showed the different studios that worked on it, I swear there were 11 studios. 11 studios, no joke, that showed up. Ubisoft, blah, blah, blah. Ubisoft, blah, blah. I'm like, you have 11 studios supporting this game, and I'm sure Singapore was like the main studio developing it. It took this long to come out, and I just cannot understand why. Nothing about the game. The game looks outdated. It feels weird. I didn't get too far into it to experience probably the cool stuff, but on the surface and the introduction, I'm just so perplexed at that game. And the fact that they're out there charging full price for it, I don't know what. I'm interested to know what EB Games is currently selling.
Well, when you say full price, because like Australian pricing is so different to everywhere else in the world, it is a $70 US game. It's a $70, so it's a premium price. And Yves Gilmore said the reason why it's 70 is because it's a quadruple A game. He says it's a quadruple A game. What is your review of that? I thought it was a free-to-play game, by the way.
You know what's a quadruple A game? If you're gonna have to, like, if you're gonna say a game is quadruple A, I'm about to talk about it. Phantom Liberty is quadruple A.
Yeah.
Last of Us 2
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah.
God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2.
They are AAA now. They are AAA. They are hundreds of millions of dollars budget.
But what I'm saying is, like, they're games that would define that upper tier of,
oh, for sure, I agree.
Different ways, right? EB Games, Skull and Bones for $110 is a fucking travesty. Now, I didn't play... The game probably has a lot to it, right? But when I played it, I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan, and I knew going into it that it's not going to be like Black Flag, right? So a lot of people had expectation that, it's like a pirate game. No, it's a pirate ship game.
And we probably should just like mention, this stemmed from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and it began development in 2013. So 11 years ago.
I cannot understand why it took so long. I know why the game had to come out because there's all those reports around the grants from the Singapore government and all that. I understand why they didn't cancel it, but I don't know why it took so long.
Just get it out at some point, right? Yeah.
Oh, I can't. I was just like awestruck by the game, but not in a good way. I was just like, this is what this game is. And I'm almost an easy sell for that game,
Yeah, no, 100. And can I just say, like, although people could go, you're a fanboy, Xbox, blah blah blah. I think you're actually fairly open-minded about games. Like, you kind of take it for what it is. I think you're more fair than most of us in terms of just going, okay, this is the game. It's trying to do this, and the fact that you can't find any fun in it is insane to me. Now,
I didn't play more. I probably only played about an hour. But if I didn't find fun in that 1 hour, I wasn't going to play anymore.
Mate, life's
So,
short. Life's short. You know, plenty of other games to play. I mean, are you about to move on? Because I was going to say, it's very similar to like a game that it seems like neither of us are going to play for a while. Suicide Squad, which just came out. It's like, because like if people have been listening to the show for a while, I love the Arkham series. I know we all kind of love it, but I was really looking forward to the idea of the Suicide Squad. I'm like, it's super interesting. I'm like open-minded. And then all the stuff about live action, then we saw the trailers and I'm like, Jesus Christ, surely can't be this bad. And then just like watching so many people play the game, review it, people I trust, like, and I find are pretty tuned into my taste, like Skill Up and stuff like that. I'm like, I do kind of understand, but like that sometimes these games can go down really stupid paths, but the fact that they take so long to make, like, is the thing that just drives me mental.
And the wild thing about Suicide Squad is, I haven't played it, so I can't judge it.
Neither can
as a game. But that game had so much working against it because, for once, the great reputation of a developer was really the hampering them because people had an expectation of what this game was going to be, and it was not that. And if it was made by somebody else, then I think there'd be a lot more people open to being like, oh, it's a Suicide Squad action shooter game, right? Sure, it probably still would have got criticism, but it's the fact that a lot of people like this is what Rocksteady's been working on since Arkham Knight, or like it's like this is their follow up, and it's such a shame. I hope that game. I've heard some positive about that game. Apparently it looks really nice. And that's obviously where a lot of the time goes these days in development is to the actual graphical assets and fidelity. But it is like, where's that game going to be in 12 months? I'm really interested to know. So
I mean, like, and we're fairly reasonable people. We're not like insane where it's like people are like, oh, it's a travesty. Kevin Conroy's last role as Batman. Fuck you. Like, that dude made a lot of shit as well, by the way. I've watched heaps of Batman media. There's a lot of like movies that he's in that are total dog shit. Like,
I didn't go to this podcast to see the Kevin Conroy hater.
I'm not no. Don't mix me up, dude.
Throwing shade at Conroy.
Don't mix me up. Like Kevin Conroy and weirdly enough, Mark Hamill, to me, in my mind, are always like the canon Batman and Joker. So don't get me mixed up. I'm just saying not everything that he was in was fucking awesome, right? A lot of things were like 10 out of 10 for sure. Anyway, I hate that shit. Like when people are like losing it about that. But I think the bit that I agree with you is it takes it to another level, that it's like the last 3 games you made are like seminal. Like the amount of games that have sparked off those games, the Arkham series, the trilogy that they made. And then for this to be like the next game, almost like 10 years later, it's like, shit, dude. Like, and it's just got no heart to it. Like, I think that's the bit that is strange to me. And I agree. There's some people that go, oh yeah, it's a bit of fun, but they're not like, this is an amazing game, And the thing is, like, their games have been amazing games. So it's a real weird one. I can see how these things happen from a politics internally to companies perspective. But again, it's just for it to take so long. And I mean, like, let's be real, the writing's on the wall. Like some of the founders of Rocksteady left. You know what I mean? So
if you were to sell me on a Suicide Squad game by Rocksteady, I think you could do that, right?
And that's where I was at.
As soon as you start basically saying, okay, and it is very much almost like a Division style looter shooter kind of game, it's like, that King Shark and Captain Boomerang like running around with guns feels a bit odd, but like
even Harley Quinn to me feels odd.
Yeah, so it's one of those games where I expect that to probably jump on your subscription services, in 12 months' time.
Definitely,
I'm keen to try. I'd never tried Arkham Knights, or no, what was it? No, Arkham Knights. No, what was the Gotham Knights?
Gotham Knights. Okay,
that's what I was thinking. I never ended up trying that, even though they did add it to Game Pass, because I know that that game you were initially kind of excited for, but then something just like pushed you away as well. So
and again, like that game, it's sort of like I saw enough where I'm like, this is just not a day one thing for me. Like you, if that goes down to like $10, or if it's on PS Plus, it's like 100% I'll fire it up and play a little bit of it for sure. With Suicide Squad, it actually reminded me of Avengers, right? So I was like, oh yeah, can you just pick up Avengers for a couple of bucks these days? Because I know they patched it to make it like kind of almost a single player game. So I checked it and I'm like, wait, you can't actually get this game anymore?
Yeah, it got removed by sale, and I think I picked it up before it got removed by sale. I'm like, it's on sale for like $2.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like $5 Australian or something.
Digitally, I'm like, I'll just buy it that...
That was smart. Yeah.
It was more like, I don't think I'll ever play that game. It's also, that game's got some weird RPG elements. A part of me is like, if someone ever decides to do the crazy and get the RPG tag on it, then at least I own it. But that was... The weird part about that game is that I remember at launch, there were actually some people that did actually enjoy the campaign of that, but the idea of that turning into like an end game loop live service style thing was not the appealing part of that game for them. So.
Yeah, and that was a big thing with Suicide Squad that I like. I understand how the loop works, the end game, and it's like it is the worst style of end game where it's like do a certain move or like make an enemy do a certain thing. I'm like, what? Like this is. I hate games that do that. It's so artificial. It's just like it's literally like a spreadsheet. Like, oh, change this variable, change that variable. It's like, that's not fun. That's boring. Actually, is it co-op, The Avengers? Because maybe if I'm in Melbourne next time, we can play it. Because I'm like, I was actually really keen to play it now. And I'm like, oh, you literally can't anymore.
I mean, it's co-op. I don't know if it's split screen, though.
Okay. Far out, man.
Yeah.
Local co-op is dead.
Split screen's so rare even last gen.
It's true.
So.
It's true. I'm actually Googled so many split screen games because of my kid, like trying to play at the same screen. So, but yeah, I'm kind of bummed about Suicide Squad. Like neither of us have played it, so we can't fully judge it. But it's certainly not a game of the year contender. So it's it's one of those games I'm like I'm not gonna touch for ages, which is such a shame because I was like really pumped about it. But yeah, Skull and Bones, man. Wow, what a wild. That's crazy as well.
It came out. No, sorry, it's not out yet, but it's basically it's going to come out. Like,
well, sorry, I know this sounds dumb, but is it? Wait, like you didn't explain. Is it a multiplayer game, like an open world multiplayer game, or is it a single player game, or both?
So it's a game that can be enjoyed single player, but is very co-op and PvP focused and stuff. But you can definitely play it solo.
Okay.
But it is one of those games where it's like login bonus. Oh, like it's that kind of stuff where it's like
I hate that shit.
It's built around trying to draw you back in. I don't know if there's a login bonus. That was just an example. It's like that's to give you an example, right?
Well, I'm looking forward to playing it on Amazon Luna.
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard any updates on Luna. Did you say that because they're shutting it down or something?
No, I just saw that what's it called? It's coming out on Amazon Luna.
Oh, okay.
No, it's still available. I don't think you can get it in Australia though.
Ubisoft hitched their wagon to Stadia pretty hard, and that didn't go too well.
So Stadia, from a technology perspective, is really good, but cloud gaming is like still like without going on a total tangent, you almost need to change the way that the game works. You know how like rollback, when they finally started doing rollback in all video, like all fighting games apart from Smash, it actually makes such a big difference. It's like, you really feel it. I think with cloud games, they need to create that predictive modeling. So it's like a bit client-based, but mostly server, and that will make it a lot better. But yeah, no, Luna's still around. They just launched it in like, France, Italy, Spain, just recently. So
I've never looked into whether or not is it something you just get, do you get access to Luna if you have like Prime?
Well, it says $9.99 per month or included with Amazon Prime. So I've got Prime. I'll probably use it. Man. The only thing is I think you have to buy games on it.
Is it even available in Australia?
No, I said that. Yeah, it doesn't work in Australia.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, Australia is normally a pretty early candidate, and they've got pretty good AWS instances in Australia. So I think it's like likely to launch. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I'm just saying, like, do you have to buy the games? I think you do. I mean, I still don't get that part of like paying for a subscription, then buying games on top of it. Stadia, how that worked. And it's like that just does not seem like the model. But anyway. Yeah. Trials Fusion's on it.
I wonder if it actually works.
No. So like, sorry, I know we're going on tangents. So I did read a lot of people talk about how Trials was on Stadia and Fusion, right? And sorry, Luna, and I'm like, Trials is like the last game you'd want on the cloud. Like it's like, let's launch with fighting games and Trials. It's like, do you want to actually pick the worst fucking games possible to launch your service with? That's fucking stupid. So anyway, Skull and Bones.
All right. Skull and Bones. From Skull and Bones to a very different experience. I played through and completed and 100%ed Phantom Liberty, the expansion for Cyberpunk 2077. So last Bigwig On Demand episode, I mentioned that I'd started it. I was probably, I'd say now that I know the length, I was probably maybe a third of the way through.
You know the length now. Interesting.
And that it really, man, it picked up after that. It's kind of phenomenal that what they've done with that. Wow. When I got through to the end of the Phantom Liberty campaign, there were so many missions and sequences and just moments that just floored me. I was like, what the fuck? It's kind of awesome. Like, it's not kind of, it is fucking awesome. And for anybody that's interested in Phantom Liberty, without spoiling anything, I'll just say that try to experience the different paths that it can go, because it leads to some really cool, unique like missions and stuff that you won't see if you go one way. So it's basically, I just want to say that not only did I want to do it, but also, I'm trying to 100% it. So I saw the different ways, and man, like, it's
high praise.
It is awesome. And with one of the really cool things that they did it in the main campaign as well, but I really noticed it the most in Phantom Liberty is, when they talk about movies and cinematography and blocking scenes and things where, they position the characters and stuff, and then the lighting. So Phantom Liberty is awesome in the way it does that, but it often gives you full. It's weird. It's like you can fully control your character and your all your head movements. Sometimes you can't move, but it still feels like it's almost like it's a really created scene, like the mise-en-scene, the cinematography. Even though you're actually able to look around, it's just something they've done with the lighting and the character animations and models. And like Idris Elba is awesome in it, and some of the other characters are just fantastic. And it's like, I don't know if I like it more than the main campaign of Cyberpunk, but it's on that level. And I'd say the highs match the highs of the main campaign. It's bloody awesome. And it's not too, it's actually shorter than I expected. Like, I think I 100%ed it in about maybe 20 hours. It's not like a
Pretty long for me.
massive expansion.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
But it's not like, and I like that. And I mentioned last time that they kind of set it in this area that's almost, it's not too big. It's actually just it's quite small, very condensed. And I really like that, because it reminded me of when I was playing the Yakuza games, where you get to learn the actual streets. You get to learn the landmarks and the buildings, as opposed to, I'm driving everywhere because it's too big. Here, I'm like, I might as well just walk there and I can get to actually explore the stuff. So Phantom Liberty is awesome. I think it's worth the money because of how good it is. I think it's like $45 or something, like just the expansion.
Yeah.
But it is definitely, we've talked before, that CD Projekt's past games definitely drop in price all the time. But man, like that, when I was early on, I'm like, oh, this is good, but I didn't realize it was really going to pick up. So
yeah, I remember you spoke about it really briefly. I don't know if on the show or in person, or not in person, but over the phone.
On last episode,
it was on the last show, yeah. Because I said it at the time. I was like, I'm just gonna wait, man. This game, when it launched, I was like, nah, they gotta go back and fix this game. They have to, because just strategically for the studio, they're gonna be fucked if they leave the game as is. And I do feel a little bit vindicated, just waiting this game out. I will play this game because it's I love the theme of it and everything like that. But the fact that I've waited and I'll just get it on a package with the main game that's been completely, compared to when it launched in 2019 to now, and then with the DLC, feels okay, that's definitely the way to play it. And it's going to be interesting because I'll come in with no baggage, really, of what the game was like. So.
And there was one, I won't say what it was, but there was one specific sequence that was so kind of mesmerizing to me that and you could tell that they knew it as well because they gave you a way to re-experience it, like when you complete the campaign.
Really? That's funny.
So I'm like, and I'm like, I wish I could tell you what it was, but it was like a really cool thing that they give you a way to watch it again. But yes, Phantom Liberty is awesome, really good.
So I mean, like the Ultimate Edition is like $80 on the PlayStation Store, Australian. It's like what a package, right?
Yeah, that's really good. And as we said, like they've got I still did get quite a few bugs and stuff, so it's still not perfect. And with Phantom Liberty, they definitely, because it's only available on next gen and PC, you can definitely tell that it wasn't as optimized as where they've got the main game because clearly they're like, well, we don't have to.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about.
yeah. So I think that from a performance standpoint, and the game will get fixed a little bit more, I reckon, but it definitely, I saw more slowdown and hitches than I did like when I'm in the main areas of the game, but it wasn't enough to sour the experience.
Yeah,
so.
and like, for absence of doubt, you're like playing on the Xbox, right? Not PC.
Yeah, I'm playing on Series X.
Series X. I think the thing is like, and I gotta just be real, like I play a lot of PlayStation. I'm just gonna end up getting a fucking PlayStation Pro, like PlayStation 5 Pro when it comes out. I just know I will, right? So it's like, I think by that time, this game will be cheaper as well. And it's going to be like, I don't know. I still feel like I've got this weird thing of like certain games like this feel like I should be playing on PC. But I find it just way more relaxing to play on PlayStation.
The thing with Cyberpunk, and I guess it's like games like GTA and stuff, you've got to, because there's driving in the game, and
yeah, that's true.
That's where sometimes keyboard and mouse doesn't feel that great. I guess for some people they don't mind, but the reason I bring that up is because I'm watching someone do a let's play of Cyberpunk, and they start off keyboard and mouse, and they end up moving to controller.
On PC, wow.
Yeah, they moved to controller because it was just more comfortable because they were swapping between driving and that. So that's the only thing I'd say with that. But look, I'm sure that people. Mouse and keyboard for driving, get away with it. So
I remember that Mike was saying how he had both. He would have like his controller there and switch when he got into like a car or something. So
if you can manage it, then yeah.
Yeah. So no, like that sounds awesome. So yeah, I'm putting it on my wish list. It's definitely a game I'm going to keep my eye out for.
All right. The last thing I'll mention, and I'm not going to speak about this too long, but I wanted to bring something up off the back of it. So I played a lot of the same thing. I played a lot of fucking Dead Island last 2 weeks. Like, what? So much. I completed the first Dead Island Riptide twice. One I finished last night. I played co-op through Riptide by myself with 2 different controllers, which was an experience. I found a partner to play through co-op and Riptide on the Japanese version. And one thing I don't think I've ever clarified to you before when I talk about these weird region stack achievement lists is that I can't find someone to play through Dead Island co-op with me with a normal version of it.
Yeah.
It has to be the Japanese version. Yeah.
So
thankfully
I have a glimpse of your insanity.
So I'm getting there. I'm getting through my pile of Dead Island shame. I'll tell you what, playing through Riptide again, I think that's a fantastic game. But anyway, I'm so looking forward to playing number 2 after playing these older games that have so much jank. Dead Island 2 is I'm so looking forward to it. But what I wanted to bring up and ask you about, so the Dead Island games, those first 2 are notorious for having lots and lots of exploits. And I'm not talking people also in those older ones put in modded weapons where they bring them in from external sources outside the game and stuff. Borderlands had that as well. I never deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
But to give you an example, basically, let's say the game has a way for you to drop an item, right? It could be a weapon, could be a quest item or anything. You drop the item, you kill yourself, and if you reload at the right time, you've still got that item in your hand, but the item's also on the ground, right? So then you pick it up, and then you do it again. So it goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then if you do that with a can of food, and you can hand that can of food into a quest person and just get unlimited XP, that's basically my Dead Island experience, is just making hundreds of cans of food and getting max level within like the first hour of the game. And it's just what I wanted to bring up with you was the idea of exploits in games
Mhm.
and where you kind of sit, and I guess where you draw the line around using an exploit, because not only like games like that, but also I remember my time at Porsche had a similar thing where you can duplicate items and stuff. And that actually made the game more enjoyable for me. And with the Dead Island as well, it didn't ruin my experience. I actually think it kind of made me almost like it took away some of the frustration. But there's other times when I remember it's not really an exploit, but Mike wanted to play Wasteland 2
Yeah.
and he couldn't get past the making his character super overpowered using like a trainer at the start, right? So that's more legitimate cheating, but basically just the similar idea of where do you draw the line of using exploits in games, you know, and also what do you think about when developers punish people for using exploits that they left in the game?
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's a good conversation. Number one, I think there's a huge difference between multiplayer games and single player games. Like that's almost the starting point to break it up. I think multiplayer games is completely like you should be banned forever. Like if I was like, because it happens in Rocket League with smurfing a lot, and it's so annoying. Like you'll play someone and they're like a grand champ in like Diamond, but the skill level is like over the top. Like you just get smashed, right? And it's just boring. So I think like if you could ban those people forever, like how Valve did with Dota 2, I believe, they had like a season gift for people that were cheating. And when they opened the season gift, it was like, here's a lump of coal. And then it's like a permanent ban from Dota 2. That's what they did. It's like if you hold this item, you are permanently banned from the game. So multiplayer, like I'm so clear. Like any exploit at all, like to me, I'm like, nah, you're gone forever. And that's partly because I'm super competitive. So if someone's cheating and got an edge like that, I fucking hate that shit with a passion. On the single player, I think there's two parts. Me personally versus everyone else. Everyone else do whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, you know, you do you, boo. For me personally, I almost never do an exploit in a game. So there's an exploit in Tears of the Kingdom where you could like similar to what you're saying. It's not too hard to set up, but basically like you could drop things as your like paragliding, and then like either warp out or save the game or do something, and you could duplicate items, right? Now, part of the game, I'm like, oh, there's parts where I'm just like, I do want to just like I have to grind to get certain parts to like advance my weapons and do all this other kind of stuff. I feel like it's a bit bullshit to do that. And that's like, to me, that's a complete like, it's like a bug in the game that they're fixed. Versus, you know, Elden Ring, you know how there's like a spot where it's like they've specifically designed it if you want to just grind up what is it called in Elden Ring? It's not souls, but whatever they're called in Elden Ring. Runes. You know, where all those like little dudes that are like all sitting down.
Yeah,
and you just go clean them all up, and you get like gazillion runes so quickly, right? I don't personally think that's an exploit, but I mean, it depends like what your definitions are. You could argue it's kind of like an exploit. It's not really. That can't be an exploit in my mind.
No. When I think exploit, it's kind of like
it's not intended at all.
It's not intended. To me, it's almost like you've also got glitches versus exploits, right? And the way in my head that when I differentiate between a glitch and exploit, I was thinking about this the other day, was, you know, Mario Kart 64, in Wario, I think it's Wario Stadium, you can like hop over the wall and do like a lap instantly, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's like a glitch, whereas an exploit is more on Rainbow Road where you can leap over that massive gap and land on the track. Because it's not you're not glitching through anything, right? But you're exploiting something in the game that's there. To me, it's like you're not glitching over.
I don't think that's an exploit, though. I think that's, to me, that's almost like a sequence break, almost like
but that's in my head. That's kind of like to me, it's like, are you going beyond the bounds of the game? No, you're just literally leaping over a track, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to what you're saying with exploits and stuff, I think it has to be something that's not intended, that is almost like a programming kind of
like a bug. It's like a bug, right?
A workaround, right? And while it's not so much an exploit. You mentioned the Valve Dota thing. One of my favorite examples was there was a easy way to make money in Witcher 3 by like killing cows. And they built in an NPC, I think, that comes up to you that's like the tax collector or something. Or that basically was built around if they knew you'd use the cow method, it would come up and actually talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite way for developers to actually handle that stuff. What I don't like is when developers punish people for a mistake that the developers made, right?
Yeah.
And it isn't multiplayer. So I think the latest Forza had something where that game has really insane grinds where you have to keep playing for ages to be able to do stuff. And people found a way to get a lot of XP quickly by doing a certain race, right? They punished people and docked their XP and took stuff or something. They basically punished people that use that. And to me, it's like, okay, this isn't in a multiplayer setting. You're punishing people for a mistake you made that to get around a massive grind that you built into a game. That's what I'm not a fan of.
But
look,
so on that, just quickly, like I want to clarify because like with Forza, isn't there an element of like online play as well? So if you're like boosting your XP through an exploit, you effectively are like getting an advantage against other people, or am I wrong in saying that?
No, look, it's a primarily single player game. Like to me, the thing is, right, developers more than happy for them to fix things, right, to patch it out because it can often break the whole design of a game, but to punish people for a mistake you built in. So it's always something that I've wanted to chat about, but just never kind of came up. Because I don't like when they punish people. Now, cheaters is a whole different thing. Punish fucking cheaters. Punish people that are using, like, whatever, right? And I think Call of Duty does quite a few funny things to cheaters and stuff.
Well, I think a lot of those big places, so Apex does this, Apex Legends and Warzone. If you're suspected of cheating, like, multiple times, you end up just being in lobbies full of cheaters. And then they don't tell them. They don't tell them. So they don't even know that that's happened. And they're like basically just playing against a whole bunch of cheaters. So that's funny. But yeah, what you're saying, so if it's a predominant, like I almost say like it has to be a purely single player game. Like if there's online elements where there's competition, I still draw the line that like fuck those people who cheat. But if it's single player, to me, it's like, I agree with you that it's like, the Scarlet Letter. It's like, do something that marks that person as like, we know you've cheated, but it's kind of funny. Like, that's totally fine. I think that's really funny to do that. But not to fuck the game up if it's predominantly single player. Like, that's bullshit. It's like, sure, you've cheated. Like, I know that people were worried about Tears of the Kingdom if it was like, they're going to ban a Nintendo account. Like, that's how insane Nintendo is, that they could ban your fucking account for cheating in a single player game.
Well, that's why it's like, to me, it's like, it is the developer's mistake, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It is a developer's mistake. This is the thing I was talking about. So Call of Duty Warzone implemented, basically, if they found someone was cheating, they could randomly disable their parachutes when they're parachuting down.
That's awesome.
So they just... Oh, no, yeah, they call the anti-cheat measure called Splat. So that's really funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like even Nintendo's done some stuff where people have exploited single player games and like mucked around with it. I know that Animal Crossing has always been discussed. Like, are they gonna like hammer down on people for like doing time skips and stuff? Like, so that's a good example. To me, it's like, personally, I really do think you are, unless it's so out of whack, the economy, and especially if there's monetization, I'm way more sympathetic. But generally, I'm like, there's a reason why they try to make things hard. So it's like, if I look at a game like Trials or Ollie Ollie World, if I just like totally like exploit the game to beat something and get like a platinum, what's the point? Like, I didn't really achieve anything, you know? That's generally how I feel about it, but I think it's like each to their own. Like, some people actually find more fun with that. I think you're probably dialed in pretty well on that. I think Mike's dialed in really badly. Like he does it in like Elden Ring. He goes crazy of just like overpowering his character, and then it's like makes the game too easy.
I think for me, it's also like I know I've got like 10 playthroughs of Dead Island like on my list, so it's like a way to mitigate the time is the thing I factor in. But yeah, no, I just want to bring that up.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much, other than some Picross, that's pretty much all I've been playing.
Yeah,
So.
nice. All right. Well, given you're the mad fanboy who gets into fights online with people for Xbox,
Ooh.
we were recording, as we said at the start, on Sunday, what's the date? The 11th of February, 2024. We understand that there is a business event next week and there's a lot of stuff going on. So by the time probably people hear this, it's already updated. So there's a clarity. So, I just want to put that out there. But Swinny, like, what's the happenings in Xbox land? It's quite monumental at the moment.
Well, first I need to clarify, do not get into fights online.
No. You're not a fanboy.
It is actually quite funny, the amount of discussion that's been around the Xbox influencer space around that, but I won't get into that stuff. It's quite funny. But basically, 2 weeks ago, we talked about our like what we think is going to happen this year, and for the different, like, the big three, and we talked a bit about Xbox, and we briefly touched on the fact that Xbox is in a really weird spot. They just let go like 1,900 people from the workforce after the acquisition of Activision Blizzard and all that stuff. Never really realized that acquisition of Activision is a really awkward thing to say. So basically, they're in a real weird spot because news started to surface in the last 2 weeks that, actually prior to that, but they're starting to look at putting more of their titles on other platforms. So the reports that started to come out, and some of these are definitely in the rumor territory, but the first ones were basically Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves are the heavily rumored titles. Hi-Fi Rush, there's a recent update where people found art assets in there that basically pretty much point to the game being put out on PlayStation Switch, because it pretty much
it's been rated by rating boards. I mean, that's like, it's they've done it, whether they release it or not is really like the thing. Yeah.
So Sea of Thieves is the other one that was heavily reported. Now, since those two, there were additional ones, but one of them's been walked back. So there's a report that Starfield was that they were considering it. That report's actually being walked back.
Well, by some people, but not everyone.
By some people, yes. But not everyone. Yeah. So another one that is definitely noted down as in consideration is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which out of all the titles would make the most sense.
So much sense. Yeah. Starfield makes a lot of sense to me, to a degree.
And others, people obviously start talking about other Microsoft first-party titles and things like that. But basically, we're at the point where a lot of people started just like saying, hey, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. All these reports coming out from a lot of credible people, including like Stephen Totilo and all that.
Tom Warren from The Verge.
Yeah, and so apparently Microsoft had already planned some kind of business event later in Feb, but obviously they're pulling it forward to this week or change whatever, right? They're doing something. So we don't know what they're going to talk about. I guess this is our chance to kind of, like I talked a little bit last week on what I reckon is going to happen for Xbox this year, and I actually included Starfield on there. But I don't think they're going to, go ahead and announce all their plans next week. But I definitely think we'll hear about some stuff. So that's where we're at, is that there's stuff that's credible and stuff that we don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to be like a total arsehole about this, but like, I don't want to dox myself, but it's like I've been in conversations where it's like very significant strategic decisions with like very senior people, and it's like you feel like something's been agreed, and then maybe like not even a day later, that night at midnight, something's been tweaked, right? And there's like 4 people in the room. Maybe 2 people make a decision outside of the room afterwards, right? So I still have the belief, and I'm like in a very tight circle of like, this is what's happening. And that's what happens here. It's like, it could be like Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, like his other leadership team. They've agreed on something. And it's like, can I just say one thing that's so super obvious, that there is a massive amount of conflict going on inside of the leadership team at Xbox. There's obviously some people who are like wanting to push in a direction and others that want to push in a different direction, because that's the only reason why you get these kind of leaks. Like this kind of shit, they don't tell everyone in Xbox. Like, it's not like if you look at Xbox Game Studios and the whole division, Bethesda, they wouldn't know shit about this. Like Starfield going out to PlayStation, they wouldn't know shit about it.
I heard some people theorizing, and this is just guesses, is that because of the amount of layoffs that they had recently, that it's possible that a lot of news has come out from because of that, because there's a lot more people open to talking about stuff. But who knows?
I'd say yes on the Hi-Fi Rush stuff, because you know, like where it's at, it's been rated. They've built it already. You know what I mean? They've got a Switch version running. They've got an Xbox version. So it's like there's so many people that'll be looking at that it's not a secret. On something like a Starfield going to PlayStation, on a like Halo going to PlayStation, 100%. I like my conviction would be that is like a super senior level in terms of like debating about that happening. And like I said, I really believe it's like they're at a crossroads. Like, what are we trying to do here? And my kind of like divining of the tea leaves is, I think it's just like they have not been able to demonstrate momentum in this category. Like Microsoft's a massive services company. Like Microsoft, when they were crushing Apple, decided, hey, we're going to put Office on Mac when they didn't need to. But because they're pretty agnostic, like that's kind of their MO. Like iPhone, okay, let's put Office on iPhone, even though they had Windows Phone that you loved, right? Like they're like, I think one thing that to me is very like a principle I always look at when I'm looking at companies is there is almost like a DNA with companies. Like Nintendo is like almost a toy company fundamentally. So it likes things that delight people. It has that almost focus. Like Sony's always been like that hardware, like cutting edge electronics, like that whole space, and everything they've always done is like that. And Microsoft is a services company. Like they create things that should run on everything. So I think like their DNA almost goes against the console space in general. And I just really think that like, if you look at, it's crazy because like Xbox Series X, no doubt to me, is I think the best design console. I don't like the size of it because it wouldn't fit underneath my like TV cabinet. But I think like if you look at the functionality of it, how it works, the controller, like everything about it, I go better than PS5, better than PS5, better than PS5, like across the board, right? So they've basically put, to me, the best console they could have ever put out, and they've just built zero momentum behind it. Like it's getting outsold 2-1, and that's like PlayStation 5 to Series X and S. But we also know from data that Series S is way outselling Series X. So it's like when you see the real figures from PlayStation, you're like, we are getting fucking trounced by the PS5 as a dedicated console, right? And, you know, Microsoft's a big company, and people have this stupid idea that companies love to waste money. There's no big company that likes to waste money. They have the ability to invest billions of dollars, but they look at it as an investment and they want a return on that investment. And I think if you're like finance in, like if you're like the CFO of Xbox, right? You're looking at it and you're going, where are the green shoots? Like, where do we see the line changing in trajectory? And I really think like Halo Infinite being a total fuck up at launch. And because, dude, there was a period of time where I was a bit like, maybe I will be a fucker and buy like a PS5 and a Series X. Like there was a slight chance of me doing that, right?
There was a lot of hope. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
I was kind of hyped about it. Yeah.
Both platforms sound like they're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And again, like I love my Series X, but when I think platform, I think not only the hardware, but the software as well.
Correct. And I know that Phil Spencer, like, and I said this at the time because I'm pretty sure we were still doing the show, when he came out with Redfall and he said, like, Xbox One was the worst generation to lose, totally agree. But where I totally disagree with him is like, even if Starfield was an 11 out of 10, it wouldn't be enough. And I'm like, no. Fuck off. If Halo Infinite was like a 10 out of 10 game, Halo 3, Halo 2 level game, I probably would have got a Series X because I would have been like, fuck it, it's just easier. I could talk to you guys more easily. Like, you know, there's a few moments in the Series X journey where they just haven't nailed it. And I think like definitely number one was Halo Infinite being a fuck up at launch, which supposedly is a pretty decent game, but it's like 3 years too late. And honestly, I think Starfield just being mixed. Like some people love that game 10 out of 10, but it's not across the board consensus. Really, like to me personally, was like the final nail in the coffin of just like, this shit, like, how can you ever get back? Because PlayStation's not even releasing games at the moment, and they're still just running ahead. So,
And the thing is, I know they've done it for ages, the whole release on PC as well as console, right?
yeah,
But what really to me is that when I put myself in the shoes of someone who's buying console and they're like, okay, the reasons to buy PS5 are obvious. And I know they're starting to put some of their stuff on PC, but we know it's not a lot of it and it's not on
yeah,
date and all that stuff, right? And then you put yourself in the shoes of someone who's like, should I buy an Xbox? And it's like, okay. In the case of someone that also has access to a decent PC, it's a really hard argument to make
impossible.
because unless you just love the experience like I do of sitting in front of the couch and not worrying about how to get your PC working well in that situation or whatever, right? It's a lot of money to spend on a system that you're not sure if you're gonna have any games to play on it that you can't play elsewhere. And it's one of those things as a consumer, I love games being available and everything. I do that. I love that as a consumer. But from looking at it from a business standpoint, it is like it's kind of like, well, they've put their one foot in. If they don't put both feet in, like it's like almost like they've got to like either go all in or not,
Yeah, for sure.
and they can't back out of what they're doing on PC. So it's like you almost have to go all in at this point, or not. Well, I say all in, right? I'm not saying everything, but it's like you have to start a broader strategy towards that, I think.
Yeah, and I think like the PC is so separate because you're talking about totally different crowds, and I don't think many people have a debate like we sometimes have of like, oh, and I think less so you definitely, but do I want that on PC or do I want that on like a console, right? I think that Venn diagram, to be honest, is pretty small intersection of people who are really conflicted. I think there are people who like to game on PC, simpler, easier to set up, done, versus people who just love to be on PC, tinker everything that they want to do. And I see this when like EB Games, which is our like video store in Australia, it's like I have heard conversations, dude, where like parents come in and go, "Oh, what should I get like my kid?" I've literally heard them go, "Don't get an Xbox because you pretty much just get all the same games, but there's exclusives on the PS5." And that's where again, I just totally fucking and I know that I'm not a big fan of Phil Spencer to a degree because I think people just get so conned by him, but him saying that it doesn't matter if it's an 11 out of 10 game is such bullshit because like when you had PS3 and Xbox 360, it's a bit like people would have to go. Like if the mum comes in, what should I get? 360 or a PS3? It's like, oh, does your kid like Halo, like shooters? Like, because you got Gears and Halo 3, or do they like these kind of games? Like there's actual difference. Like, where do you want to sit in those camps, right? With all this news and all the stuff that they're talking about, even if it's like not the Halos coming out, or even if it's not Starfield, it weakens the position of like, hey, why did I invest in Australia like $750 into this machine when I could have bought PlayStation 5 and got almost all the games, because they're also putting it across. Like, this is the biggest thing to me that I wanted to touch on. It's like Phil Spencer has been black and white. Like, he said it multiple times when they bought Bethesda, Activision, stuff like that. He literally said the words, because we want to have great exclusive games on Xbox. And to me, it's like, if that starts to really break, he has to go, man. He has to go. Because I think there's an element of like, you've actually fucked over people. Because people are like, and I don't believe in fanboyism, and I think being like loyal to one console is stupid, right? But people have like taken the words on, I think, and going, well, they're gonna, I'm behind this vision that they're painting. Game Pass, day and date, like all this kind of stuff, exclusives. They're coming, one a quarter. It's all gonna happen, and then basically in the precipice of like the pipeline getting full, they're like, gotta make some money here. Maybe we gotta start thinking about putting like Starfield on PlayStation. I'm like, fuck, that sucks.
So with Xbox, so when it talks about their game development and everything, they essentially have three pillars now, right? You've got your Xbox Game Studios, you've got your Bethesda, and you've got your Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Now, I think that setup, that like whether or not there's actual like commingling behind the scenes or whatever, right? Just if you think of that split, I think that allows them to build a strategy around those different pillars. Whereas, for instance, okay, Activision Blizzard games, we already know Call of Duty, but to me are the most likely that they actually do this kind of stuff with, because
Oh,
not only will it help them maintain that facade of, we want, like, basically like the whole FTC stuff, right? It allows them to kind of maintain that thing of no, we're doing this, you know, in a very good manner and stuff. But Bethesda we know that they've got a lot of those big hitters, right? Whether or not Starfield hit massive or not, it was still a success, but you know, it didn't move the needle like it expected to.
Yeah, it wasn't Skyrim.
Yeah, you've still got the next Elder Scrolls. You've still got that stuff.
But that's like 5-6 years away.
No, but the thing is, it's like if you are thinking like with their current kind of setup, right?
Yeah.
It allows them to be flexible with that stuff. My expectation is that they will, you know, not only test the waters out with these titles, like smaller titles like IFO Rush, Sea Thieves, and things like that. See there's appetite. I hope they do stuff like Killer Instinct. Like that would be so cool, to have.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
To have like, because you know the FGC is on PS5 and all that stuff. But the whole thing of putting stuff out day and date on Game Pass, and then 6 months later, it then gets put on other platforms. It's like, I'm trying to see it, that might end up actually, because the idea we talked before, like they care more about getting Game Pass subscribers than selling consoles at this point.
But now, because they've like, and we're going to touch on this soon, but it's like, I genuinely thought, like, and I really believe, and you will never probably know, but I genuinely thought they're like looking at it going, there's a chance that we could start to get back to level pegging with PlayStation 5, right? Versus Series X. I think now, 3 years, 4 years down the track, that's done. Like they know it's 100%, like the momentum's dead. So
I think while they still are in this generation, to me, that approach would make sense, where they basically still, it's like getting your cake and eat it too, where you basically get the Game Pass influx. Whether or not it's massive or not, you basically get enough interest, you get people signing up, and you sell some consoles in this generation. And then you also get the, hey, now it's out on PlayStation, and you know, I'm just talking PlayStation stuff at the moment. To me, that would make sense for the remainder of this kind of like generation, while they actually have hardware to move and all that stuff. And then beyond that, I don't know, because at that point, I think everything's up in the air. Like I have no idea about I'm not a strategy person, but it's like at this point you have to start like a contingency plan or an exit strategy outside from the hardware side of things, you know?
Well, yeah, and it sounds like, so again, we're recording before most of the major like stuff has come out, but I just saw on Video Game Chronicles, Phil Spencer saying to the internal town hall meeting, and look, they wouldn't say stuff internally that they're not going to like be consistent with to a degree, that we're not getting out of the console business. We won't stop making Xbox consoles. That means jack shit. Right.
Well, that's the thing. That statement could be, we don't, it could just be for this foreseeable kind of run that we like for the series lifetime, you know, like you could interpret that, reinterpret it, but also it's like, he's not ultimately, if someone else moves into his spot, you know, that could all change.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that the way it's going to play out is there are going to be some games that are going to go over to PlayStation 5. How many? Still, to me, maybe questionable, right? I just think that given that they haven't denied this wholly, like there's definitely an element of truth to, and like you said at the start, that I don't really trust Jeff Grubb. He's been wrong heaps of times, right? But Tom Warren from The Verge, I don't think he's almost ever been really wrong about something major, right? Look, there's definitely validity that they're going to do some stuff. Some stuff's going to go across to Switch and to PS5. I think just like they've kind of smashed their momentum in the console space. So to me, it's like they're not like a Nintendo, where Nintendo actually makes money on every Switch they sell. Xbox still loses money every Xbox they sell. So it's a bit like, why the fuck would they? Like, I just don't think they'd be making another console. Like, I think like with this announcement, to me, that's not going to happen. Like, I would be shocked if they release now another console, because to me, it's like why? Like, you don't. Netflix doesn't have a dedicated box. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're really, if you're giving up the battle of consoles, which I think they effectively have, if they're going to put some of their games across other platforms, then get out of that space. Then we're talking about a different thing. And I have mentioned this before, but I really genuinely think it makes way more sense for Microsoft to get out of consoles, but like home consoles, and get into handheld consoles. I think it makes way more sense if they want to stay somewhat in that space to make like a handheld that runs Game Pass and like games locally on that as well, right? But not compete against like a PlayStation 5, right?
I was thinking the writing really was on the wall, the Game Awards, when they announced Blade, the Arcane game, and they didn't put
They didn't
any
commit to
platform.
anything. They didn't commit
They
to
didn't
anything.
commit. That was really almost like the canary in the mines kind of
Well,
thing.
and there were all rumors at that time as well that there's a
Mm,
pivot. And I do think personally, it's pretty clear that this isn't a 3-year strategy that they've been running. I really think that maybe I'm like, it's more like the straw that broke the camel's back, but I really do think this is precipitated by Starfield giving them no momentum. Starfield didn't move units. It sold, like I was just checking it now, it sold 2.5 million copies. Like, it didn't change jack shit for Xbox. Like, it wasn't a system seller. It's not like people are going, I'm going to get my Series X to play Starfield, right? And not to say that like it like was always hyped to be that, but I think you got to always look at signals in business and go, we are having no signals at all to say this is going to change. So why
I
do we keep
mean,
doing the same thing over and over again?
we don't. We also don't really have a good historical example of a release that level and what Game Pass did or didn't do to it. Like, I don't think we have, like, Halo's the closest, I think, but Halo also kind of launched with its multiplayer first, so it was really
Yeah,
weird
it
the
was
way they rolled
fucked.
that out.
Yeah.
So a game the level of Starfield in terms of like hype and stuff, I don't know if we have a, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously the expectation is it's still going to sell and also on PC as well, but the fact that it is that big profile Game Pass release where it's not now, again, like, you could combine those numbers with the players on Game Pass. I'm sure they released that
No,
number
they did. It was
and
like
then,
10 million.
yeah, and maybe chop that down a little bit, and then like you can start to look at, okay, where would it sit if it didn't have Game Pass? But you know what I mean? It's like we're in a weird space now where there's never been a Microsoft party title that big released within game. Like, to me, that size. I know we've had Gears 5 and things like
Yeah.
that, but
But I think the way you analyze it is you go, well, how's it going on Steam? Because Starfield was released on Steam, right? And that community is like so separate to Game Pass, right? So you look at Skyrim, still even today, like 20,000 people play Skyrim, which is insane, right? Look at Starfield, 8,000. That's insane. That like Starfield's not that old and it's like dwarfed by Skyrim already. Like, it just didn't click. And I do think Starfield will have legs for sure. But I don't know. I just look at that and go, I think that was the last straw where it was like, fuck, we're getting no momentum. Where's the change? What's going to change here? But to me, it's like, one thing I wanted to touch on is like someone like you who has like a massive Xbox game library. If there is no console, like, what does that mean? It's like, are you just stranded with all your games on Xbox Series X forever? Is that kind of like how it's going to work? I guess it will, right? Because it's
yeah,
not going to
and
transfer.
I personally don't care about that. Like,
Oh,
as in,
okay.
I don't care in the sense me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because I've got, just like a lot of people, I've got a lot of games that I haven't played. If I sat there and added up all the games I haven't played in the amount of time, it would probably see me through to the next 10 years. What I care about the most is, what does it mean about for the choice in the market? What does it mean about the idea of like, we know Nintendo and Sony, the other two, right? Nintendo are kind of operating completely different.
Yeah, they do their own thing. Yeah.
Corner, right?
Yeah.
And PlayStation and Xbox are kind of occupying a similar space. I don't like the idea of there being one person in that similar space. I know Nintendo's the only person in theirs, but the idea
But they're hunting different people.
Exactly.
They're hunting different people.
The idea of Sony being the only big player in that like high spec console. Oh, there's just something about it. I'm like, but I have no idea. I'm like, who else would actually step in?
No one.
Because
And
it's like they would see the signs that Microsoft saw around, or that before Microsoft around that stuff of like every console that's selling losing money, like all this stuff. And it's like, we know that eventually cloud streaming will be a powerhouse. It's not yet, but eventually it will be. So it's like, does that mean that if Microsoft
I'm still not 1,000% convinced of that, but yeah, go on.
But if Microsoft leave the console space, are we just going to have a PlayStation high spec?
100%.
Are they going to only player for like a decade or something?
Again, like so I think a few things, like, you know, I'm more of a business person than a gamer, and I've been listening to people's commentary, and I'm like, I fucking 100% disagree with where they're coming from. It's like, oh, like Apple's going to get into the console business, blah, blah's going to get into. I'm like, do you understand that the console business to me is almost completely predicated on you can have a demanding reason why someone needs to go to this platform. And if you can't establish that, then there's no point. And even when people talk about Apple, I'm like, you fucking dummy. There's Apple TV. It's literally a game platform and no one uses it. It's not appealing to people. Like, I do not at all see anyone going to the space. Like, the only left field thing could potentially be Steam, really trying to reboot, like, you know, Steam as a, like, and they've done this before and it failed, but like potentially try to, you know, have a Steam box and like, so like have Steam Deck and then have like a dedicated thing with no screen and just, you know, plays your Steam library, maybe. But I don't think that's going to shake up anything. And I think you're right. I think there'll be PS6 and there'll be like Switch 2 and then that's it. Like, I think they're going to be the only two. And again, going back to my thesis, it's like, a company DNA is really important. Sony has a history. If they dominate some space and monopolize it, they fucking charge you for it, bro. Like, they do not give a fuck. So when it was like really in Australia, only like PlayStation 1 that was kind of like dominated at really high end and was kind of a bit separate to what Nintendo was doing, they were charging big dollars for that. I totally see this as the next PS6 is going to be like way more expensive than the PS5 because they won't have the pressure. They'll look at it and go, it's not a coincidence that two of these companies basically hit the same price. That's not a coincidence. Like, I totally see it to be like in Australia, like what do we pay, like $750 for a PlayStation 5, I think, or maybe $800 now. I totally see the next one being like $1,000 or at least like $900. Like, and that part of it is fucked. Like Sony, with no competition in that space, they'll go crazy because they know they can. Like, hardcore gamers will pay. Like, we've even seen it. Like, they increase the prices. People are still paying as much, like buying as many games as ever. Like, it hasn't really hurt gaming, like the increase in prices of games. So that part of it to me is going to be like super fucked without Microsoft. Like, they've played that role to create that tension in the market. It's going away for sure. It's going away.
And to just recall back to that initial question you asked me of like, what does it mean for me? I think the fact that, you know, like Microsoft has been pretty good with, they're only shutting down the 360 digital store like this year.
Yeah.
They've been pretty good with allowing you a lot of time with the online services of these, of like from the 360 era. So as long as they maintain, if this is their last console generation, if it is, as long as they maintain it for a decent amount of time for a reasonable amount of time, then I'm okay with that. It's like, okay, there's a decent amount of time where I can get patches for the games and, and DLC and stuff. If they start to say, oh, because we're no longer in the console business, then you've got like 2 years to use the online services of these games, and that's where I'll be shitty about it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where it would impact me.
Yeah, I gotta be real. Like, I'd be floored if they release another Xbox. I'll be floored. Like, and what I mean in the traditional sense, like, could they release like a I don't know, Xbox super light version that still is like a Series S, but it's like
Yeah,
super light and it's
I
mostly
could
for
see.
cloud. It's mostly for
I could.
cloud. I could see
I could.
that.
Yeah, I could see that, or it's like, oh, it's powerful enough to run maybe like Call of Duty Warzone and that kind of
But that's
level
like
of game.
Series S. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
iterate on Series S and just make it really, because things do miniaturize really quickly.
Mm,
It's crazy. But if they could make it like an Apple TV size, where it's like kind of like this big or
mm,
something, I could see that. But I wouldn't call that a next gen console. Like that's a different
no.
category.
Mm.
Like that's almost like a new category of like cloud consoles.
It's Game Pass console at that
Yeah,
point.
correct. So I just don't know. There's even recent reporting of saying they're going to make another console, and I'm like, why? Like, what? Like that would be fucking bizarre. I think people are like looking back at the leaked documents that came out like from
Mm.
2021 or something. I'm like, that shit's out the window now. Like, forget about that, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's done.
That was like assuming they were in a level playing field.
Yeah, correct.
So.
The last thing I wanted to do, and I just wanted to get your like, where do you draw the line on these things? Do you think there'll be another console?
I think there will be some form of physical hardware, like we just said, but in terms of a fully specced out
But would there be a
level,
PS6 equivalent Xbox? Do you think that will happen?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't think so now. Do you
No,
think Xbox is going away as a brand?
no.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. Can I play a game of like how I would spin the PR?
Yeah,
So
go
this is a
ahead.
business event. Okay. I think the fundamental things that they're going to touch on is like they're going to touch on that, the history of Xbox is, we're always trying to get out to many gamers. We've always put our games on as many platforms as we can. PC, mobile, blah blah blah. And I bet like the way they're going to spin it is to
Is
say,
blah blah. I was going to say is blah blah part of their script.
yeah, exactly. It totally is part of the script. And I think the thing that they're going to like hone on is like, we're for the players. We want to be there for the players. And we see this as an opportunity for more people to play our games, right? But if you have Game Pass, you're always going to be able to get it like day one and get it, as part of your subscription instead of, whatever, paying a fee for it. I think that's literally where they're going to try to hone in on it. Because I think they got to be careful now because it's got to be real for them. Like maybe this is the last Xbox. Better not commit to anything too crazy.
I think what kind of not the ace in hole because it's not that powerful, but their kind of thing that they've always like said, and it's almost like they got in their back pocket is that they have said that they want Game Pass on everything, right? They've always insinuated that, hey, if we could put it on other platforms, we would.
Yeah.
So I think that the fact that if they, they're going that direction, and look, to be clear, we didn't say it all. Like they've published games on other platforms. They've published, but just not these high profiles. They've published things like your Minecraft dungeons and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But not what we're talking about now. But I think the fact that they've kind of always said that, and they basically just want to get subscribers from wherever they can.
Yeah.
I think is that. But the thing is, that's me talking. The general consumer doesn't remember them saying anything like that. They just remember them trying to sell them a console.
Yeah. And also the other thing that they'll say at the start is there's a bunch of great games coming. Blah game, blah game, blah game, blah game. And it's all coming to the Xbox Series X and Series S on day and day. Like they won't say something like it's not going away. They wouldn't be as crazy as saying that. But they'll just be like very clear. There's games coming on the Xbox Series X, and there's games Phil Spencer will be like, even games that I've played, and I'm really excited to when you guys can get your hand on it. But this is an opportunity to get it into more hands.
And don't forget, he's going to be wearing like a Crash Bandicoot t-shirt or something like that.
Mate, I actually think the whole set dressing is going to be like, there's going to be like 50 meetings on the set dressing. Like, because you know how Sarah Bond, there was one thing where she had like a switch or something, and people were going mental about that. Not that I'm saying like it's the be all and end all, but they do care about that stuff. So I think that will be interesting. The other thing is like, how do you think this event's going to go? Like, it's such a weird one. It's not a showcase or something like that. I just kind of assume it's going to be like Phil and a couple of people in a pretty like chilled environment.
I don't think it's going to happen, but you know what would be wild?
Yeah.
is if they also had like a talking head from like PlayStation or a talking head from Nintendo, like something when they start talking about
no,
putting.
they won't.
No, I don't think it's.
That's not funny. That's triggering, bro.
No, just imagine like they're talking about, and we're bringing Hi-Fi Rush, and then they have someone on like not like top level, but someone from like Nintendo saying, "We're excited to get Hi-Fi." Like, I'm just thinking, like, would Microsoft be crazy enough to try to sell this by using a talking head from those platforms? It's just in my head. I've got this visual, and I'm like, man, that would ignite that would ignite people so much.
You're almost just being a troll. You're almost being a troll. No, all right. Okay, you put that out there. Do you know what I want to do? I'll put my version out, right?
Yeah.
So you have Phil Spencer, Xbox logos in the background, and you have Jeff Keighley, right? And then Jeff's like, hey, Phil, but what about people that want to play great Xbox games, on their like console? And go, well, they've got an Xbox Series X in the future. They can play their game on PS6. Just keep the Xbox Series X if you want to play old games. Actually, it's even better. You know what? They should bring like Don Matrick back. Bring him as part of the presentation.
I was about to say the next one will be called the Xbox DM, the Don Matrick. Did you just spill it on your mouse?
I've literally got water everywhere. Like all my handhelds. Oh, that actually killed me. The Xbox DM. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. This is like, it's literally everywhere, bro. Yeah. Hey, look, they haven't even announced the time, have they? Of when it's actually going to happen.
That's what I was looking up. I'm like, because I was thinking, I have no idea. Me. I have no idea what kind of time or whatever.
If we're free, can we please stream it or like just record it together?
That was what I was going to suggest, but I'm like, is it actually going to be in the middle of the morning on a work day? But I don't know. It's
most likely to be.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Look, if it is at a time that works, I'd be happy to. But we'll see.
Yeah. Let's do that. Like just to get it's like, look, the reality is, with these kind of things, this is not a positive announcement. It's not like a Switch 2, right? Where it's like, how do we hype people up, right? They're going to try to take the air out of the sails of the negativity brigade, right? Like, how do we just get people leveled out again? So I'm just assuming it's going to be pretty boring, like what they're trying to put out there. But yeah, no, Xbox DM. I like that. That's funny.
Cool.
But yeah, to wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to?
No, I think we talked a lot. I'm gonna go play some more.
I gotta literally clean my desk.
I'm gonna go play some more Dead Island. Surprise, surprise.
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, well, it's bye for now.
Catch us later.
Bye.